Hey everyone, I'm at the Canadian border. A wall just appeared overnight last night. It's pretty solid. It's amazing. It extends the entire 2,000 miles of the border. It's 73 and a half feet tall. I don't know why 73 and a half, but it's pretty tall. It's cold. Okay, Chris is on the other side. He's on the Canadian border, on the Canadian side. I don't know how he got over there, but we do have a camera. Chris, can you hear me? How did you get over there?
Okay, Steve, I was visiting Idaho. I was wandering very, very far north. I thought I saw a patch of potatoes I had not yet seen before and cataloged. I went up, checked it out. They're just regular potatoes. But when I turned around, this was here.
So are they going to let you out, or are they treating you okay? What is going on over there? Because we're amazed. I don't even know why. Do you know why they built this wall?
Okay, there was initially a little bit of communication problem with the natives. I said something about football, and they just kind of shrugged at me. Then they said something about hockey, and I wasn't sure what they were talking about. And then we finally landed on Bret the Hitman Hart, and we were able to communicate once more. Oh, yeah. Okay, as far as why this wall was built, it's on account of all of the liberals from the United States saying they were going to leave the country if Trump was elected. They decided to end before that, and here we are. It's apparently a stronger wall than you usually see. It's because they mixed the mortar with maple syrup.
Yeah. I noticed it was made out of maple syrup. It's pretty sturdy. How are they treating you over there? Have they fed you, or are they giving you anything to eat other than maple syrup?
Okay, they gave me a cup of Timmy Hortons coffee. Between that and the potatoes I snagged earlier, I'm golden.
So, how are they defending this wall? Like, are they doing anything? Are there guns or soldiers or anything? I don't understand how they're defending it.
There was one report of the Americans attempting to storm the wall, and when they did that, from up top came a barrage of compliments and apologies, sent them scattering. I don't think they'll try that again anytime soon.
That sounds horrible. I can't believe they're doing such a thing. So are they going to let you go? Are you being detained, or are you going to be able to come back across at some point to back to America to shoot more episodes?
Okay, just a few minutes ago, one of their legal experts approached me and informed me that if you live in Wisconsin, you are already a dual citizen. So they're going to just escort me back across, at the earliest convenience.
That's great. Just make sure you bring back lots of maple syrup, and we'll see you when you get back to the States, buddy. All right. Hey everyone, and welcome to Matu. My name is Steve.
And I'm Chris.
Something's not right. It doesn't feel natural. This is awkward. Better. I like that. It's natural. It feels normal. Like I said, hey everyone, this is Matu. My name's Steve.
And I'm Chris.
And we're going to be talking about Native Americans. Good show.
Yeah.
All right.
Another one in the can.
Yeah, hey. So what we mean by Native Americans, we mean Indians, Native Indians. And
a lot of history there.
very, very lot of history. So I think we should start with a little history lesson. So in 1776, the forefathers did not want to pay taxes, so they. What? Did I not go back far enough?
Yeah, you got a little farther back.
1992, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. And...
Wasn't that 1492?
Yeah, that's what I said. In 1492, Columbus sailed for he knew where he was going. Let's put it that way. He wasn't going to India. He knew there had to be something out that way. Like, obviously, he didn't know how far, but he went out there to look, and he stumbled across the Americas. Thankfully, so he found America. He was like, "Oh my God, there's like land here."
Stuff. I like stuff.
Yeah, but he actually found the Caribbean islands. Right, is what he actually found. It wasn't actually the continent.
Yeah, I think it was like a few voyages in before America proper.
Yeah, and what he found was natives, and he ended up calling them Indians. And it's not because he was searching for India.
Yes, this was based on his pidgin Spanish. Being an Italian, he didn't speak or write Spanish so well, so he made a kind of broken Spanish statement calling them un gente en Dios, which means a people in God.
So it's not insulting to call them Indians. One of the narratives that's been going around a lot is that the U.S., or not U.S., but the colonists murdered all the Indians, or a good portion of them. And the actual truth is that just before we got here, in like the early 1400s, mid 1400s, a disease spread through the East Coast that killed millions and millions and millions of Indians. It was decimating. It ripped them apart. And to the point that we actually found settlements of Native Americans that not a single person survived. It was just empty. So it wasn't the colonists that killed all the Indians. Let's get that straight.
The killing would come later.
And I think that leads into our first video from...
As usual, our numero uno contributor, Jessica Baird. Let us hear it.
So if you think that the colonizers would have had a chance of overcoming the Native Americans had there not been so much disease spread to them, or do you think that they would have met the same fate as the Vikings had?
Yeah, see, that's a really good question. I'm actually, it's probably one of my most favorite questions she's given us yet. And I don't know if we actually know the answer to that. Do we really? I mean, is there any way to kind of guess that?
Yeah. It's a lot of guesswork. But I'm thinking maybe you'd had those kind of numbers, it would have been a more symmetrical relationship, let's say, between the settlers.
Yeah, I think we wouldn't have got as far out. The colonies wouldn't have gotten as big. We would have, because the original Indians or Native Americans were actually pretty accepting of the colonists. See, people, like, they think that, oh, they were right away fighting with us, but no, they were kind of like, hey, who are these guys? Like, they're pretty cool. And, I think once they realized we weren't going back is when they kind of turned on us a little bit, and then we started killing them. They were like, wait a minute, these guys aren't as friendly as we thought they were, and there's a lot more of them than there used to be. And we were like, hey, let's colonize everything. And they were like, but we just wanted you guys to hang out over there on Plymouth Rock.
And they were all like, but what manifest destiny?
And I think if there was more of them, we had guns, they didn't. But at that time, those were single load guns, and our guys could fight hand to hand, but these weren't soldiers. These were just regular old farmers and people like that. So, like, I think they would have got crushed in an actual battle.
Yeah.
I mean, we pretty much lost every battle we fought against them anyway.
Unless they had started out with a full-scale military campaign from Europe,
That's what it would have taken,
and
we wouldn't be here. The United States definitely would not be here because I don't think the British Empire was that powerful at the time, and it would have been more the Spanish or maybe even the French would have had a bigger population in this area than what the British ended up having. So we wouldn't have had the forefathers. We wouldn't have had a lot of the freedom that we have now. We'd probably still have a lot more. We'd probably be still a colony, I would think. And we would still be on the East Coast. I think that the American Indians would have been a lot better off if there was more of them when we got here. But lucky for us, and I do say lucky, they weren't. They were decimated. Their numbers were like a tenth of what it was before we got here. And that's actually a close to a real stat. We were that they were that decimated that there was almost none of them, at least on the East Coast. There was a lot more in the West that we found out about years later. So the first Thanksgiving was a lot of what we know about, but what they don't want to tell you is that we ended up massacring those same Indians because that's what we do apparently. So it wasn't as good as, like, hey, here's some food. You guys are starving. Let's feed you. And we were like, oh, thanks for the food. And now we're going to kill you. And that's what happened. So be thankful. We fought the French and Indian War just before the War of Independence, which is actually what kind of helped us win our independence because the Britain Empire had fought for so long against the French. They were pretty weak, and we were able to actually fight them off. And then after we founded us as a country, we made treaties with the Indians saying, hey, like, we're not going to go past this line. This is your land. This is ours. Just let us be. And as it always is with European settlers in the United States, we had to keep pushing. As we kept pushing through and more into their land, we kept putting them on smaller areas and getting into war with them. And somehow we ended up outnumbering them at some point. And that's probably because Europeans would have babies like a bunch of rabbits, It's like, all right, honey, here's our 10th kid, like, we gotta have help on the farm, right? Yeah. So
gotta have spare kids in case you get a flat.
Yeah.
Never mind.
We slowly started putting them on reservations and giving them smaller and smaller and smaller stretches of land. So as we're pushing more west, we're making treaties with them, going, okay, here, you guys take this area, you take this, and we'll stay out of your way, and you guys can follow your traditions on your own land, and we'll just leave you alone. It's not going to bother nobody, we're just going to be peaceful. But Americans can't leave well enough alone, and we would keep breaking these treaties over and over again. And we actually sent the American army in to fight these people. We fought a war. Like, they don't really necessarily call it the American Indian War, but that's essentially what it was. After after the Civil War, it became an expansion into the West, and with that was more war. And, the United States, of course, the government has to protect its citizens, so it kept sending the army in to fight these Indians who didn't want us on their land. But we had to have that land because it was manifest destiny. So we kept violating all these treaties.
Yeah. It's like the one part I know a little bit about with Chief Joseph and I Will Fight No More Forever and all that.
That was late 1800s, wasn't it, with him? Because he lived quite a long time,
yeah,
right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. He was one of their stronger chieftains. And I think that's one of the reasons why I think they lost the American Indian War is because we're one group. And they're little group, and they didn't like each other to begin with, and they would fight each other, and we would play off of them, like, oh, hey, here's you. You two don't like each other, go fight. And then we'd clean up what was left.
Yeah, playing both sides against the middle, and we would never do anything like that these days.
This whole pipeline issue going on right now, do you think that if we had a treaty with them, that we would break that treaty? I think we would.
It's to where I don't even know what to believe anymore.
I don't even know if I think that the Native Americans that are fighting for it even know what they're fighting for anymore. That's what I think. I think they're at a point now where they're just like, we're stuck protesting, so we might as well keep protesting. And they don't have an out. They never had an out because the eco warriors won't let them.
To me, that's just as tragic too. When you've got, I don't care what they call themselves, a bunch of white people exploiting the Indians again. Just time for political capital.
Yeah, and to me, it's both sides doing it, like, but it's definitely, I want to say the left more than the right is exploiting this. And they're doing this like, yeah, you guys keep fighting for your water and your other stuff. And it's like, but wasn't there a pipeline there anyway? So all they're doing is replacing an older one that's bound to break and spill gas everywhere for one that's going to be safer and better.
And I genuinely see both sides of this argument.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, it's technically on private land, but would it be private land if they had honored the treaty? Yeah. The private people who own the land next to the reservation have all said okay, and that's what they're going on. But the tribes are saying that wouldn't have been anyone's private land if
we wouldn't have violated the treaty.
Yeah, that would still be theirs.
Of course.
That's where you get into a really murky area because, talking about, it's unjust, but just how far back do you try to go to fix this?
Yeah,
at this point, you're going to be kicking someone else off their land who paid for it.
The major thing that I'm against in this whole issue is the use of force by the federal government.
Far in excess of anything that could be justified.
Like the worst of it is spraying them with cold water in the freezing cold. That's just mean. That's not even that's just terrible. Like, you are a terrible person.
That's just cold, man. And of course, when something like this happens, I'm always like, oh, the police have tanks now. How charming.
Maybe they wouldn't have tanks if we wouldn't have militarized them. See how these issues kind of, they snowball. We allow a little bit of our freedom taken away, and then they take a little bit more, and then a little bit more, and then it comes to a head in situations like this.
Which brings us to the original point we're always trying to make, and people keep telling us, but if you shrink government, corporations are just going to push people around.
Isn't the corporation the one doing this right now with the help of the U.S. government?
Corporations always have the help of the U.S. government.
Yep, that's the problem. Is we don't live in an actual capitalist society anymore. I know you people hate capitalism, but it ain't capitalism, folks.
I think private companies and such would be a hell of a lot less brave if they didn't know they had their militarized policemen backing them up.
Well, and then you could have...
they don't have to spend their own money to do this.
They could have a private arbiter come in and go, well, you have this issue, you have this issue, and then work it out. But when you have when the corporation has the U.S. government backing them up, they don't have to have that arbiter. They can just be like, we got an army. What do you got?
You lose.
Yeah, you got a bunch of little old ladies sitting out there freezing to death. Like, good luck. You got the one crazy candidate out there spray painting things.
Oh, Jill.
Jill. But that's, that to me is the truth of the matter is if we didn't have such a huge federal government, this probably wouldn't have happened, or at least to the extent that it's happening.
Couldn't see it snowballing like this.
Could a corporation like that, would they pay for private security that would come in and shoot water at protesters like that? And if they did, would anybody want to buy their product anymore? Like, I sure as heck wouldn't. If if like Coca-Cola came out and just sprayed everybody with soda, like, I'd be like, well, I guess I'm never drinking Coke again because that's just horrible.
As things stand now, no one has to own their shit.
Yeah. There's no responsibility because they have the backing of the federal government. And I think that's where us libertarians should be on the side of the protesters, in my opinion, because we need the corporations to back down in these situations when they have all this power and they're being backed up by such a huge federal government. Like, where's the state in all this? What?
No local accountability.
Yeah.
No one knows who to blame.
Yep. And that's the problem. And I don't see any way out of this other than the protesters just getting bored or sick or not able to do anything.
They're already being ordered to close their camp by, I think it's the 5th of December.
Yeah, something about safety and it's...
I guess it's kind of bad PR if a bunch of people freeze to death.
All right, everyone, that's been our episode. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure you comment, like, share, subscribe, tweet the heck out of this. Like, let's get this out there. Let's inform people on some libertarian
Stuff.
And
if you are so inclined, come right here to 321 East Milwaukee in Janesville for the Rock County Libertarian Party meeting. 4th Friday of every month. Real easy to remember.
All right, thank you, everyone. This has been Matube. Have a good night.
See ya.
You gonna hit the button or do you want me to hit it?
Shoot for it.
All right.
I get to do it. I push the button.
Nope, that's not it. Nope,
Oh.
not that one either. Nope,
I'm too low.
maybe. Hit the button. Just hit the button.